values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition.
I'll call to order the City of Portage for Planning Commission for today, excuse me, September 5th, 2024. If you would stand and say the pledge. Mr. Cherry, could you call roll?
Victor Mendoza, Melissa Weidenbach, Anthony Wire, Carissa Childers.
Here.
Sam LeBoy.
Here.
Deb Ekdahl.
Here.
Denise Little.
Here.
Victoria Vasquez. And Alonso.
Here.
You are not John Hannon. So.
If everybody's had an opportunity to look at the minutes, if there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any reports from officers or staff?
No reports.
Okay. Could you call our first order of new business?
Okay, it's Z-03-24, John Carroll, care of Trevor Murphy, Manhard Consulting, 333 East Butterfield Road, Suite 600, Lombard, Illinois, requesting a change of zoning from R1, very low residential, to R1, very low residential, and R2, low-density residential, and M1, low-density multifamily residential, consisting of approximately 120.18 acres, plus or minus, along the northeast side of Airport Road, County Road 500 West, and County Road 700 North. So this is a continuation of the sketch plan that you all saw last meeting. So,
Good evening. We'll go ahead and you can start your presentation.
Want me to start? Yeah, okay. That's right.
For a point of order that I might ask to start out, I know you listed the first petition. Do we want to consider, because all the same material is going into all the petition Z-04-24 to go from R1 and R2 and M1 to the PD R1. I just didn't know if you wanted it all considered at one time because it's going to be the same materials going in.
I think the point's well taken. It is going to be the same materials, and I don't think it's easy to understand unless it's presented all at once. So I would recommend that we call all three cases so that we can talk about the project in its totality.
okay.
Thank you.
I will continue the case calling, Z-04-24, same ownership as above, change of zoning from R1 to PD R1, R2 to PD R2, and M1 to PD M1. PD-01-24, same ownership as above, and we are looking at approval of Providence at Farmington preliminary plan development consisting of the same acreage along the same residence or same location.
Okay, thank you. Since last time we were here, we'll just kind of briefly go over the summary of the project for you and for the audience. I'm John Carroll. I'm with Providence Real Estate Development, otherwise known as Providence Homes. With me at the table here tonight is Mike Langlow. He's our VP of Land. Our engineer, Trevor Murphy with Manor Consulting, and Greg Bauer, our attorney as well. We're asking for the rezoning, and as you know, property was, about 2/3 of the property was annexed already into the town, into the city, and that was R1 zoning. Back a couple months, the annexation of the remaining roughly 1/3 of the property was completed. That also came in as R1. We've always shown the plan, and our intention was to bring in a mixed-use development like what you see before you tonight on the screen, which consists of 3 different types of products. One is what I would call traditional single-family. One is cottage homes or ranch homes, which would be minimal maintenance. The maintenance would be included, snow removal, lawn maintenance, et cetera, would be taken care of by the association, as well as paired villas, 2 homes put together on the property. So because the property is, existing zoning is R1, in order to complete our PD development, which has been proposed, we are requesting, as was stated, zoning from the R1 portion that would be for the traditional single family to be rezoned to PD R1. We would be looking for the area that would be the cottage homes, which would be zoned from R1 to PD R2, and the duplexes or paired villas would be rezoned from R1 to PD M1. Okay. All of that is consistent with the plans here, and the areas that have been designated for the rezoning are consistent with the plan that you see before you tonight. We have made some changes. The plan has gone through staff review. We've had a couple of DRC meetings as well. We have addressed any comments that came up prior to that, and so the submittal you see before you is really is different from our initial submittal because we reduced the number of cul-de-sacs that were on the property as best we could, and still keeping the consistent character of the curvilinear streets and the overall aesthetics of the neighborhood. We also added some additional pathways and green spaces into the property and kind of tied those all together, consistent with our conversations with staff as far as how we could accomplish a very walkable community with a lot of paths and passive and active recreation spaces in it, and yet still meet the requirements that are necessary for the city, meet city ordinances, and to provide city services. Currently, the plan before you has calls for 128 traditional single-family homes, 101 of the cottage homes, and 80 of the paired villas, total on 40 lots. Okay. Those, from a product standpoint, just to give you a summary for yourselves, for the audience, that none of this has changed since last time we were here, but I'll reiterate it anyway. The single-family homes we're anticipating building will be roughly starting around 1,800 square feet and topping up on a base house of about 2,900 square feet, just under 3,000 square feet. And actually, with different options for sunrooms and things like that, they actually will get over 3,000 square feet on the top end. The cottage homes would be starting at about 1,260 square feet and go up to about 1,992 square feet, also with sunroom options and additional options. So those would be up over 2,000 square feet at the top end as well. And finally, the paired villas would be starting about 1,225 square feet, and they'd be getting up to about 1,650 square feet. These are all from the base pricing standpoint, again, with additional options you could add to be probably about 1,800 square feet at the top end of that product there. Okay. We did receive a staff report, a staff review of the project, and we have, this has been on a fairly accelerated schedule. Staff has been very helpful and cooperative in trying to move along the process quickly. We did actually address all the staff comments. And we're okay. We've agreed to all the staff comments that are here. We actually have resubmitted and again, the comments were, and staff could certainly correct me if they think I misstate this, but the comments were really very technical from a standpoint of language in the preliminary plan and things like that to address, to make sure that the city of Portage was worded correctly and things like that. Okay, so they weren't really substantive as far as the plan itself goes. However, we did address all those comments. We agree with all those comments. We did address them, including the comments on the proposed covenants, and we did resubmit those today. So we have gotten everything back in. There isn't any disagreement as far as I know between us and staff, but we certainly would welcome any questions that you have in any way on the plan. Thank you.
We do have public here tonight, so could you talk a little bit about, I don't know if you have on your program, the different models that you have and how that they're going to be set, none the same on three sides and across the street, about the hiking paths, and just a civilian look at the development.
Sure. Appreciate that. Can you pull up product? Okay. Give us a second. We'll pull up the product while we do that. How many miles?
Could we turn around your, so that people in the back can kind of see what you're talking about?
While he's got the product up here, probably the most, I think, remarkable thing about our proposed Farmington development here is the walking and biking paths that we have in the open space that's throughout the neighborhood. The plan before you has over 3 miles of paths within the development itself, in addition to 5 miles of sidewalk. So it's in addition to the 5 miles of sidewalk for just walking around the neighborhood and the street, there's another 3+ miles of paths in there. And those paths, if you see them, I know I told you to bring up product, but But as you can, that's a good picture, Mike. You can see that those paths go, you know, anywhere within the neighborhood. You can very quickly go walk to your sidewalk, get to a path, and get on the pathway system. Those paths will take you to both passive and active recreation. So for walking, running, you know, you can use those paths. We also have, we'll be working with the Park District. We asked for some, although they will not be Park District property, suggestions on some active recreation, some play lot areas and things like that will be within it as well. So we really see this as being a very comprehensive neighborhood where, from a recreational standpoint, you can utilize the paths. There will be some overlook type of features at the wetland areas. You can see that particularly at the southwest corner there, there's a kind of a wetland area and some others throughout, so that we can basically, you know, just for walking, you can stop. I think, I forget the term, somebody wrote up on the Planning Commission last time as far as like stretching, kinetic stations maybe, was that the word somebody wrote up? Yeah, okay. So we're looking to incorporate that as well into it. So really exciting. We're really pleased with how it's come out, and we think this can be a great neighborhood for everybody. The product, maybe we'll start, which is the first one to show up with. Okay. So this, the traditional single family, can we zoom in or no? That is zoomed in. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So we will offer at least 3 different elevations of each of these floor plans as well, and as well as a myriad of color selections. We do predetermine color selections, you know, available colors, not necessarily the combinations. With customers that buy homes, we also have a design professional who works with our customers on these selections as well to help coach them through the process and make sure that the colors they're picking are, you know, look good. Their roof looks good with their siding, looks good with their stone or brick or whatever. So why don't you just page through them real quick. So this would be the Sienna. This would be it's a smaller one, 1,874 square feet. That has 3 elevations, or does it have 4?
Yeah, so this would be the second elevation.
Okay. Go ahead.
That'd be the third elevation of the plan.
Right.
So there's a little bit more, you know, masonry on it.
Next plan.
Yep. And that's got kind of a more, some stone, vertical siding in the gables, a little bit more gables on the front. And then that would be the hip roof. Some masonry.
So there's 4 of that one.
Yeah, so there's 4 of this elevation. Most of the plans follow the same kind of theme, I would say. So the last elevation is typically the hip roof. You know, the B elevation would be some wainscot brick. You know, so that'd be the ranch.
Excuse me. We'll be offering a ranch plan within the traditional single family as well. So it's a little bit larger, and by the time you add on everything to it, it can get fairly large. So it's, you know, in addition to the ranches that are available in the cottage homes.
So yeah, like I was saying, this would be like a D elevation, and the D elevation across all of the plans, you know, typically include the vertical siding, the stone in lieu of brick. So we try to keep them somewhat consistent in the style across, you know, the plan. 2-story. So you would have, you know, Lancaster plan with a B, C, D elevation. And we internally control the monotony of it. You know, so like for instance, we wouldn't build 2 of these next to each other or on either side. So we internally control, you know, so we don't get a situation where you have 3 Lancasters in a row, or, you know, 3 Siennas. There's the 2,300 square foot plan, the Onyx.
And you can see the architectural styles do vary, and they change from elevation to elevation, and that we think provides for a much better streetscape.
And that's just shy of 2,500 square foot. There's the 2,600 square foot plan, the Jasmine. And as John said, we offer quite a few color selections. For the stone, the brick, and the homeowner or the buyer has the option to mix and match those and kind of pick the colors that they would like. So they have the option to pick their siding, their brick. You know, we don't pre-program like an elevation where it's all one package, so they can kind of, if they like this color siding but the other color brick, they can do that. But we just picked a couple of options here just to be able to just demonstrate what they would generally look like.
We do coach people a little bit, though.
Yeah.
Other thing I will also point out while Mike's going through this is that in addition to the floor plans that come for each of these homes, those floor plans themselves very rarely are two that are even of the same, two Carlisles have exactly the same layout inside, because we have expanded family room options, we have luxury bath, we have addition, you can expand a first floor bath to kind of pick up the traditionally called mother-in-law suite or related living, so that you can have a full bath on the first floor in some of them, et cetera. So even within the quote floor plan, there's a lot of changes, as sunrooms or cafe kitchens, which have an even bigger sunroom added as part of it. In addition, there's 3-car garage options available as well for the single family. So I don't think we have any 3 cars on here to show, but
No.
But each of these homes has a 3rd-car garage option, and they actually have a 2.5-car option, or you can go to the full 3-car garage option. So there's a lot of choices, a lot to keep track of for us.
And then this will be moving on to the cottage homes. So the Argentium is the 1,200 square foot plan. And those are 2 different elevations. On this one, we just put it together, 2 plans on a sheet instead of individually. That's the Sterling, and that's a B and C elevation. It's 1,500 square feet, almost 16. The Britannia, 1,610. And then the Copenhagen, and there's a B, 2 elevations of that plan at 1,800 square feet. And then the 1,992 square foot, so almost 2,000 square foot cottage home is the Saxony.
We typically refer to that series as our Sterling series, okay? Our single-family homes are our signature series, so they have different names. Sterling series, you know, type of silver. All the plan names are different types of silver, by the way, a little fun fact. Argentium, et cetera, if you're wondering where we come up with these names.
Yeah, in the single family, the first product we showed, that's in most of our communities where we have single family. The Sterling series is in Winfield right now in our Grand Ridge subdivision. So if anybody want, look at our website and take a look at the floor plans more, or drive out there and see what the product looks like in person, we have a few of them going up now. And here's the paired villas. That's the ranch. And these are about, do you have that there? I forget which, the smaller end one is. Oh, so these would be the 1,220 square feet. Sorry, I apologize, it's not on the slide. And then we have 1,400, oh, sorry, this is the 1,400 and 1,469 square foot plan. And then the 2 stories are 1,596 to 1,616. So the difference is really like one side unit slightly smaller than the other. Above the garage, it's set back a little bit. So the square footages vary, but very little.
And for the paired villas, we do typically predetermine as we're going down the way the color combinations there, so that we make sure that there's a diversity in color combinations, roof, siding, et cetera, as well as mixing up the elevations themselves, because even though they're similar 2 floor plans together, we have different elevations, so we can build the same 2 floor plans and have a completely different elevation look to it. So I know maybe some of you had a chance to go out and see them, but also.
Complete your presentation.
Yes,
For
thank
the
you.
product.
For the product, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Before the public hearing, if anybody does not feel comfortable standing up in public and speaking, you can write your comments down, and we will have them added to the minutes. So I now open the
Public hearing.
if there is anybody
Here to speak for the petitioner? Anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? Is there anybody here to, I am so sorry. Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? What I'll have you do is go to the podium, and you can sign in on any one of the 3 petitions, your name, address, and then I'll make notes of your questions. They will make notes of your questions, and we'll have all your questions answered.
Well, I'm not against progress by any means.
Can we have your name before you start,
It's
sir?
Michael Hatala, and I own the property north of this development here. And first thing I'd like to know is have they made upgrades in the sewer system in Portage since you turned us down? Because that was one of the reasons that our development was turned down. Because they said they didn't know whether the sewers could handle it. But yet, this is basically the same thing.
Yes, and after everybody has spoken, we will answer that for you.
Oh, okay. And another thing, are they aware that there's a pipeline that runs just north of that? And another thing is the lady who was the head of the board when this went down, she didn't like these plans because there wasn't enough room between the 2 houses to get a piece of machinery to put in a pool. Now, who's going to buy a patio home or whatever and put in a $70,000 pool? And they can take equipment in there. And as for the colors, my guys explained the same thing about you don't have to have this color, it's just whatever, and they could show, but she didn't like that. And in the end, she says, I don't like it, and when questioned why, she says, I don't know, I just don't like it. So we have to address these things. And another thing, how are they going to bring the utilities down? They're going to try to go through my place? This looks like a nice, development, but I'm just saying that what's fair for Peter should be fair for Paul. And that's about all I got to say about it.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? He's coming first, and then you can be up next.
Good evening. My name is Al Hewlett, 750 North, 500 West. My question is the city prepared for the infrastructure that's coming along with this? And has the city made the school system aware as well of the possible increase of students that may go into schools that are currently already crowded, with classrooms being 30 to 35 students per classroom? My other question goes towards what was stated during presentation. You are going to be aware of how there won't be 2 different there won't be similar homes right next to each other. Like, how do you plan on stopping that from taking place from those that plan on purchasing? Also, what is your purchasing price range from the lower square footage home to the higher square footage home? I had a ton of questions before I got here. My other thing is, when it comes down to the HOA and there being walking paths, I understand that's great. That's great and all to have walking paths. Health is wealth. I understand that. But will these walking paths also be open to the general public of the city, of the town? Because walking paths are great, but if they're not capable of being used by everyone, then what is the purpose, other than those that actually stay within the community? If that's the case, then you might as well have a gated community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kathy Bingham, and I am concerned about a building that is on 450 West, also known, actually, the area where you show Samuelson Road, that is not Samuelson Road. Samuelson Road actually ends at Route 6. That is 450 West. I am concerned with the church. How is this going to affect the church in the magnitude of, if we wanted to expand, that will now basically stop us? Also, too, would we be eligible for the ability to tie into the water and the sewer lines? But my main concern is how this is going to affect us as New Hope Church of God.
Jeff Chittister, 487 West, 700 North, Valparaiso, Indiana. I served a number of years on the Lake County Plan Commission and then also the Hobart Plan Commission once I got annexed into Hobart. So I fully understand the magnitude and the responsibilities you guys have. You want to do the right thing. You want to see the city grow. You want to see development be done right and stuff. So I give these guys credit, but I've also seen every developer come in there and promise you the world and stuff like this, and then when you get in here and stuff and things get going, then they start cutting corners to save costs or something like this. So, I would recommend you that if you do pass this, hold their feet to the fire. I just need to know who the builder's going to be. Are we going to have these Lennar homes? Are we going to have Althoff or something like this? They're doing those three little pig homes over there behind Kohl's, and when they huff and puff, that's going to blow those things down. The other thing is the multifamily. Just want to know if those are going to be on slabs. Are they going to have crawl space on everything and stuff and everything? Because you do have some drainage. I see you got some drainage provisions put in there and everything too. The multifamily, are they going to be rentals? Are the people going to buy those houses? If they're permanent residents, then I could feel better about that. But if they're just going to be rented out and stuff, they have those empty nesters and stuff like that. But if they're just going to rent them out, man, we got enough transitional houses in Portage. You go to the north, you got all the apartments. You go west, you got a whole development right off of Willow Creek. You go up to Lute Road, off of Airport, go east or go west, and you got apartments and stuff. You go down and throughout, and I've knocked a lot of doors in Portage for various reasons and stuff, and there's multifamily scattered throughout. Transitional, that is not the right kind of signal you want to send to your residents in Portage and stuff, you know. You want to show stability to your schools and to your police department and your fire department and everything. You want permanent residents and stuff, because then they have skin in the game, they have a vested interest. So, like I said, I fully understand what you guys are going to deal with here and stuff like this. I just want to make sure that you're going to do the right thing and make sure that we're just not going to have somebody build, because when these guys leave the area, you guys will be the ones that people come complaining to. That guy with the shorts, if he's still around as a mayor, he'll be the guy they're going to be looking for and stuff. Okay?
Thank you. Is there anybody here?
My name is Michael Groves. I have property to the south of this. I thought this was going to be more of a question answer, but some of my questions have already been posed. You know, are these going to be rental units? Are there going to be invested in these properties? Or are they going to be bought and then somebody else is going to rent them? I don't know how an HOA is going to work for them. My next concern is this is the second rendering of what I've seen of this property layout. Is it going to change again? If it's zoned, how is it then going to change again? Previously, on the south property line, for the properties that are on 700, there was 2 properties that had 7 neighbors that butted right up to their properties. Now I see a green space on there. It's a little more appealing, but will it change again? That's a huge concern. My next question, what are these homes going to projected sale price? How's that going to affect my property value? A lot of other great things have been stated. I mean, how's this affect the school systems? I mean, they are overcrowded. Portage is a huge school with a lot of kids, and you're talking another 300 units, 2 kids per unit, another 600 kids in the school. I guess my biggest concern is, I mean, all those are my big concern. I mean, I'm not happy about it, but I'm not against telling another man what he can do with his property. And if it's for the better good, so be it. I just don't want to be on the wrong end of the stick. I also reached out to this company through a realtor, Belinda Schuster, 2.5 years ago and had a verbal agreement to purchase 3 acres of that property. Evidently, her contact is no longer employed with them. And 3 months ago, I was informed that they have no intention of selling any of that property. So that's concerning. Second rendering, was told one thing a while ago. That's not the case today. If you approve this, is it going to change? Our corner is going to be cut. You're all going to do what's in the best interest of the city. I believe that. Whether that holds out to be true in hindsight, I don't have a clue. But these are all huge concerns of mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm the guy in the shorts. I have 2 rules when it comes to public comments. 1, be very careful nowadays because you are the mayor, and I'm not going to hide that. But 2, usually wait and see if somebody brings you up. But there's another important clarification I've got, and just taking some notes as people were up here asking questions. I think that most of the questions, in fact, I think almost all of them can be answered either by Mr. McClure, Mr. Cherry, or the developers. But Going in order, there's one that I just wanted to make sure got answered, just in case. Superintendent Alanez of the school system, she watches all of these municipal meetings. It wouldn't surprise me if she's watched this one and she's driving on her way now to make sure you guys know what I'm about to tell you. But in case she's like busy doing something, I want to make sure that I say this really clearly. When people talk about the schools in Portage, this is something I take very seriously as a former teacher. I taught special ed for 6 years prior to being mayor. I meet bi-weekly with the superintendent. We've collaborated a great deal with the schools. What I can say very clearly is that our Portage schools are not over capacity. As a whole, they are not overcrowded. If you've been following the news, and it's okay if you haven't been, local news is tough to follow sometimes. Within our Portage school system, it's hard to gauge capacity because it's not like they give you one number and like that actually like runs up. But more or less, the Portage school systems are somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 capacity. They are currently at 6,400. So the school system here in the Portage area, that's South Haven, Ogden Dunes, and our city, it has room to grow student-wise. It's something the school system takes very seriously because in Indiana, schools are primarily funded by head count, not property taxes. They get money from property taxes, but just like everything in Indiana, it's limited what you can spend that for. So for school operations, head count is actually very important to our school system. It's a delicate balance, though, because cities are not funded by head count. Wouldn't that be great? Biggest city has the most money. So we have to work that line. One of the things our school system did very recently is they completed a demographic study of our city. And what they found is that the majority of the neighborhoods built in our community, this isn't inherently bad for our community, it's not inherently bad, but from the school system's end, most of the new subdivisions built in Portage have not increased the numbers of students in the Portage schools. That actually has to do with the number of empty nesters, downsizers, people who are, I hope those aren't bad terms, I love people, my parents are empty nesters now, and they're looking at potentially downsizing. That's not, and they want to stay here in Portage. We have people who are moving here from Lake County in Illinois after the kids have graduated high school, and they're moving to our community, but it's not as simple as taking the number of homes in a subdivision and multiplying that by 3 kids. If that happened, there'd be people in the school administration office dancing because that's what they need for making sure that the schools continue to do well and that they continue to do well financially and provide the number of students needed to provide for all the teachers and all of that. One of the things you might have seen in the news recently is that the school system approved a new plan to, and I'm not saying anything new, this was in the news, it's been talked about online, knock down Aylesworth, build a new middle school building, and then use that to replace the current Willow Creek building. That's also something that they're doing to be able to be more flexible and increase capacity should capacity need to increase. But right now, there's not a concern. Now, there might be people saying, well, my kid or my neighbor is saying that his kid's class is overcrowded. There are some issues in some schools, elementary schools, where there's a bit of a district balance issue. The elimination of Aylesworth is part of the district's plan to redistrict and spread that out, basically adjust where those lines need to be. I say that not because we shouldn't take any consideration for the schools, but to understand that right now we have a school system that's rooting for more neighborhoods, hoping that they get more kids. And I don't think I'm out of turn for saying that. That said, when it comes to us, what did I put for number 2? The sewer system. So also not saying anything new, although I hesitate to remind everybody, we recently passed a sewer rate increase here in our city, along with the fact that our sanitary board is looking to add either an increased capacity fee or have some other measure to add to make sure that new neighborhoods are paying for themselves when they come in. With the funding we have, we're getting ready to do about $30 million worth of projects to improve our sewer system. So to speak more generally about what it means for this neighborhood and how they're going to connect, that's something better people can answer. But what I can tell you as a city, we've been forward-thinking. We're planning for the future to handle what we have now, because from a sewer end, Portage has already outgrown. We outgrew years ago where we needed to be. So we're catching up now, and we're really excited for it. And I'm happy to continue essentially the mission that my predecessor started, getting our sewer system where it needs to be. When it comes to the church, I've already spoken, and I'm very excited. You gave me a business card. I'm going to reach out to your pastor. If you guys have any plans to expand, you are welcome to expand anywhere in Portage and the city. We can help, just like when a business comes in wanting ideas. We're happy to talk to you guys, too. Unfortunately, from a land perspective, somebody just beat you to the land. I don't mean that in any insulting way, just like we were talking, but sometimes that's just how it goes. I've had ideas for properties too, and then somebody else bought it, and I'm like, darn it, I waited too long. And I'm not saying that as a criticism, it's just from a plan commission side, I think that that's just how things go. Past developments. I used to be on this plan commission. People knew me as being somewhat very, very critical of certain developments that came in. I stand on everything I did as a plan commission member, but I didn't just vote no all the time. I'd also add that when it comes to any sort of approval of new neighborhoods or any sort of rezoning, after this goes through you guys, it's going to go to the city council as a zoning change request. If they pass it, it will be the first zoning change passed by the city council for a residential purpose, either this year or next year, whenever it gets to them. I say that because a big part of last year's election was, how are we going to responsibly handle growth? There are some people that don't want to see any new homes built in the city. That's not the kind of, that's too anti-growth. We need to have reasonable, responsible growth. And this is what you guys are reviewing right now. Is this an example of reasonable, responsible growth? What I can tell you is that this developer has come in and worked with the city diligently for, at the very least, the entire time I've been mayor. I've tried to keep myself out of this process, but I do keep track of what's going on, and I can speak to the fact that, one, there's been some diligence to go in here to speak to the idea of the neighborhood changing. I was one of the very first guys who looked at this and said, there are way too many cul-de-sacs here, because our street department is not going to be able to plow them all. They were responsive to that. So keep in mind that a change doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing something wrong. It could be that they're responding to what the city has requested or the needs of our residents or our city departments. The other part to understand when it comes to holding a feet to a fire, just speaking for the city, and I don't think I'm out of turn for saying this, you betcha that's what we're going to do. Because that's the business that this administration is in, and it's the business that this city council, all of the Republicans, Democrats, it's not about party. The current city council is determined to make sure all rules are followed, feet are held to the fire, but also when people are doing a good job, we don't pretend they're doing a bad job and yell at them just to yell at them. Anyway, I think that's the limit to what a responsible mayor should say, but the main thing I wanted to get across was the school system and sewer concerns because I have some ability to speak to them. Thank you.
Thank you for helping. I haven't closed the comments, so if you would like, you could go up and speak. Sign your name, address.
Good evening. My name is Hakina Hewlett, and I reside at 750 North, 500 West. I just have a couple comments that I would like to share. As a newer resident to Portage, maybe 2.5, almost 3 years now, I'm concerned about how the newer builds will impact or limit, or sometimes I think of maybe restrict my agricultural opportunities. I moved to Portage for just the land opportunity to perform as a farmer and to grow and to learn about and appreciate the land opportunities that were available. And so that is one concern that I have. I'm not really sure how these new builds will affect me in that manner, negatively or positively. I'm hoping in a growth opportunity. When I think about the new neighborhoods and residences, I think about ordinances that will be in favor of a neighborhood, and I don't think that will be a positive impact to my agricultural opportunities. I think of restrictions and limitations when it comes to having a farm and, just animals and just the freedom that comes with that. I'm not sure if that is the case, but that's just what comes to my mind.
Could you expound just a little bit more?
So I moved. Oh. It's the one next to where the newer houses were built behind Kohl's.
We're just south of Lenore, or north of, yeah. But when you say, I just want people to understand what you're
Talking about. I mean,
So I think of what comes to my mind when I came from a neighborhood that had cul-de-sacs and HOAs, and there were restrictions and limitations of, just how your property should look, and, animals and fences and what you were allowed to have. And so as a farmer, a budding farmer, and when I think about growth and expanding my farming operation, I think about acquiring livestock and how that may affect the neighborhood and ordinances and being a nuisance. And I just am concerned that that may cause an issue, which I don't want to, but how do we address that?
And just one more question for verification. You live in the county,
Yes.
not in the city of Portage?
No, I live in the city. It's the city, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We don't allow farm animals in the city by code.
So by code, there's also one for livestock, not livestock,
Their house is right here, the 5 acres that they bought, and I built the house years ago. So it's,
Denise, we need one person talking.
One person at a time. Thank you, sir. One person at a time, and she has the podium.
Okay, so that was my concern, because when we did first move to Portage, we did go down to, I think, speak with someone from the building planning committee or someone, I can't remember, a few years ago, to inquire about just the opportunities that we were having. We did understand the communications that there were not any livestock restrictions. Another comment that I would like to share is I am also a chemist by trade, an environmental chemist, and so I do understand that recently there has been we withdrew from recycling opportunities, and with more people comes more waste, and I would like to know if there would be an opportunity to reintroduce recycling opportunities for, the residences. How will we be able to address that, and can we bring that back? And finally, I do think, regarding the schools and the classroom sizes, I do think that the classroom size is currently favorable. That is one of the things that I appreciated when my children moved to the school system here, was the medium-sized classrooms and the ability to have more opportunity for one-on-one attention, and just the teachers and instructors to be able to it's more favorable for advanced learning, in my opinion. And so increasing the population will affect that. It will increase the classroom size. And so to say that we are under the threshold at around 6,400 students, but yet we have already planned and had conversations about this new building, we are in fact addressing the fact that these new builds will increase the community and probably the classroom size. So we can't say that it's not going to happen. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And I had one more gentleman. I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought it was your husband.
She reminded me of something when she came up here. And I don't know who else to ask, so I think it'll be appropriate here. It doesn't really have to do with the development. We live on the south side of it. Border it. And we're not happy about it, my husband and I. My name's Mary Chin, and my question is, are you going to do something about the stoplight, since there's going to be more of the cars than ever going through that stoplight on Highway 6 and Airport Road? We've lived there like 34 years at this address, and I don't know, I can't even count how many times we see emergency people at that stoplight, because there is no turn light at that light. And I don't know if that's appropriate to do that here, but with more people coming in, you guys probably have access to the accidents that happen there, and for goodness sake, there's a high school there. So when they changed all these lights, I personally want to know, my husband wants to know, we all want to know. It's so hard to make a left turn on Highway 6 already. And we want to know when they're going to put a turn arrow at that intersection that's going the north and south, well, all the ways. I think actually they have it east and west. But they need one north and south. There's a high school there. And then when they redid all that, just not too long ago, maybe 2 years, we thought, all right, they're going to put a turn light in there. Nope. And I want any one of you to drive up on that road and you try to make a left turn, especially when high school is getting out, and you cannot even see if a car is coming south at you as you turn. So she reminded me of it, just saying all these restrictions and all this, more people. Something needs to be done about that stoplight, please. Please do something. And I know that's a state highway, but if anybody can do something about that, please do it. Okay, that's all I had to say.
I thank you. Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner?
Denise, before you close it, because we've run 3 petitions together, why don't we have some answers, and if we have any more questions, we can. In fairness to having 3 cases run at the same time.
Okay, so you want me to?
I want you to just leave it open and have them
Oh, I can
answer.
have them answer.
Yeah, but leave the public hearing open.
Okay.
And what you have not made notes for, I have notes.
And I think maybe before they go, I want to make sure, especially obviously the people who've come, but of the board, to understand the process, where we're at, assuming something were to move forward. So what's imperative is we don't do a lot of PDs. It doesn't mean they're bad. It just means we're not in the normal flow of things. So I want to be very crystal clear. This is not primary plat. Okay, that is not the same thing. It's not even remotely the same thing. What we are looking at tonight is the concept plan, and the different shades are the zoning districts that we are concerned with. That is ultimately what the Plan Commission is doing, is 2 things tonight. 1, sending a favorable or an unfavorable recommendation to the City Council, who will then have that for 2 meetings. And have more public comment and more presentations, and eventually the City Council will decide whether or not these individual zoning districts will be rezoned into the petitioned for PD zoning districts. Number 2, the Plan Commission tonight will be approving or not approving the preliminary plan, also being sent to the City Council. The City Council then will be approving that plan as well. When and if those 3 hurdles are met, at that point in time, these individual petitioners still can't move dirt. They still don't have primary plat. They still can't sell a lot. What they need to do then is finish their full engineering, come back, continue down our PD rules and our ordinance. Our PD rules, just so everyone hears them again, requires them to not only complete primary, but secondary plat before they're allowed to move dirt. So as we look at the timeline of these things and we start talking about, where at some point we're going to have some conversation about the staff report and the things that are contained within it. What I'm telling you is that those comments are for the petitioner. They are for them to be continuing to work on. But this board doesn't need to concern themselves with those issues tonight, not because they're going away forever, because they have to come back with the full engineered primary and secondary plat, which will be coming before they can begin to develop this subdivision. So tonight is the conceptual idea of whether the zoning as presented in these clusters, in these areas, because the zoning isn't going to be able to move. If this is what the Plan Commission sends up and the council were to approve it, this is going to be the zoning districts. Those are good, the things and the density that will be allowed to be put into those areas. This is the base plan, this is your ingress and your egress, and the conceptual plan of where the stormwater goes. That idea, do we like this? Don't we like it? Up to council and the preliminary plan. They come back with full engineering. And then also I would point out that, can we go back to the other, I think you have another one that you had up at the very beginning. It was the more of the, not your, yes. So when you get into this map, okay, this is our zoning map, the rezone, or excuse me, the annexation that has already taken place is not reflected on this map yet, but I wanted to try to highlight that we're not, because their plan, and it's not their doing, their plan makes you feel as if you're up on 6. The commercial corridor on 6 still exists up north of this proposal, okay? And so we've seen some of those proposals come in, all right? I think we can say that it's a fairly remote possibility that those uses up on 6 are going to be single-family residential. And so I think we have to take into consideration some of the buffer that would be built in if we can consider some normal line of development moving forward. So I think the Plan Commission should keep that in mind as well. But most importantly, the process that we're going under so that everybody knows the pit stops that are coming along the way and the staff reviews and the independent engineer reviews and the DRC reviews to make sure all the technical parts of this is put together correctly before we're into primary and secondary plat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Again, I'll try to take the comments in order. I tried to write down the names of the peoples, but if I get it wrong, I apologize. You can certainly correct me. First was Mr. Atala came up and spoke. I guess, I understand there was a previous development submitted on his property. I am not familiar with the details of that submittal, so I'm unable to speak to differences between his submittal and our submittal, and I certainly have no information in regard to why it was denied or the discussions that took place at that time. A couple of items that I can address that he brought up are we aware of a pipeline that exists? The pipeline is north of our property. I believe it's on his property, or there's probably an easement or something for that, but it is not affected by our development in any way. And we certainly know that as far as bringing utilities to the property, we have several options for bringing utilities. We have looked at that with the city's consulting engineer as well as their Public Works Department. Fortunately, there is right-of-way and several options to bring. There are utilities that come to it, but one is we'll be creating a lift station and a force main that will need to go one direction on Airport Road and then storm sewer. We've worked closely with both the city's consultant and city's Public Works Department, as well as we actually already spoke with the county about the stormwater. So we've addressed what we consider off-site, whether it's off-site drainage or whether it's off-site utilities are required. Obviously, in the final engineering, as was mentioned by the attorney, all the final details of that will be addressed, but we have spent a considerable amount of time and discussion on that with the city's consultants as well as the staff. As far as the sewers themselves go, I don't have, again, I don't know what his prior proposal was and what upgrades were discussed or taken care of, so I'm unable to address that at this time. Second commenter was Al. I didn't get your last name, Al. Hewitt? Hewlett, okay, thank you. Again, from an increase in infrastructure overall, again, it's kind of a broad issue for the city, but I do know from our conversations with the city that, as the mayor talked about in his comments, is there's looking to the future has been a part of that discussion, including the financial ramifications of it. I know that there's a lot of stuff in the works in that regard. We have, we'll continue to make sure that whatever we add into the city systems is not only properly sized or properly constructed, but is compatible and congruent with any proposals, any planning that the city has going forward. So whether that's sewer, water mains, et cetera. The comment was made relative to changes, that were made. the changes from the last, and I don't think this was Al's comment, but it's a good time to address it, is that, it was, as the mayor stated, this is a process, okay? We've been talking to the city for a long time, working this development through this neighborhood and trying to get input. We've been very transparent from the beginning as to what our intentions were with the property, but as we get input, as we get suggestions, including the open space backing up to the properties to the south, et cetera, we've incorporated that into our plan. Obviously, from a preliminary plan standpoint, as was stated by the attorney, these will be the zoning districts that we'll be dealing with, going forward. So that's why we've spent so much time up front and, making changes, making revisions, being responsive to comments, whether that's on the street layout, whether that's on open space, the paths, et cetera. That's why there's changes to this one. This is several iterations from the initial submittal that we made to the city last year. Okay. Schools, I can't do a better job than the mayor did talking about the schools, so I think that I don't have anything to add to that. Monotony enforcement was a question that Al raised, and that is, when we do this, we do. Who enforces that? Well, first, certainly from a standpoint of enforcement, this is something voluntarily that we presented and came forward because we want our neighborhoods to look good. Okay, question was brought up by another commenter about who's the builder. Well, we are the builder. Okay, Providence is the builder. It is our intention to build all three product lines. Okay, that's why we're showing product here today. Okay, that is the product. So this isn't something that wishful thinking or whatever. These are the products that we're proposing. Okay. Price points, which was a question I can address. Again, I will caveat that with prices are market driven. Okay, we're not starting construction tomorrow, so hopefully whatever prices I'm referencing as a general range right now will be even higher by the time we open because, but one of the purposes of a mixed-use neighborhood like this is to provide various different price points so that there's affordable homes and quality homes across a broad spectrum of prices so that people who are, I know we've worked with the city on some recruitment, trying to recruit, police and fire people, and, one of the questions is affordable housing. Where can we live? Okay, where will we live? So when I talk about that, we've taken that into account because, there are no proposed rental. The reference was made to multifamily by another questioner, which is generally attached product and apartments and things like that. The paired villas are 2 units together, okay? They're typically not considered multifamily by any definition, okay? But these are for sale homes. We are looking to sell them to the public. We cannot restrict, and the ability for someone to, at some point, they sell their home or they want to go buy a different home, move up in individual rentals, but we're very careful of that within our covenants. I think our covenants actually address that to make sure that there's, some very specific requirements for that. In the case that an owner, these are owner purchased homes, for some reason, life situation, whatever, wants to lease that property out, minimum lease terms, things like that, obligations that go to continue to go to the property owner that are in the covenants, et cetera. So that's a very, that's an everyday phenomenon, but this is not a rental community in any stretch, okay? These are all, will be anticipated to be marketed to the public for individual buyers. Price points, not to get away from that, in our paired villas, we would be base pricing probably at a starting price around $250,000. Up to a base price of about $280,000. Average options in those prices would be, in that price range, probably be about $40,000, though on top of it would be our average option sales in there. So we'd be anticipating about a $290,000 average price for the paired villas there. The cottage homes would be base pricing in the $320,000 to $375,000 range. Okay, they would have a little higher level of options out there as well, probably $65,000. We do both of those products, both the paired villas and the cottage homes, would be a base price as a slab home. Okay, that question came up from another person who went to the podium, but they would be slabs, but they also have basement options available. So both the paired villas and the cottage homes have a basement option.
John,
okay. Yes.
Just to be clear, the paired villas is $290 per side.
Per side, that's correct.
Correct.
That's per
Yeah.
side, that is
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
So per home, thank you, Tom. So, but again, basement option, and we're currently building both of these products in different locations, and we have people that are buying both the slabs and the basements, depending on their needs. Okay. In the Signature Series single family, we were expecting to base price about $339,000 to $390,000 as a base price. Options there would probably be more on the $80,000 range or so. So you'd be north of $400,000, probably on an average price in there. Some would be a little under, but that we expect to be somewhere north of $400,000 on average price for that. And again, those homes, well, we indicated them, those would be 1,800 to over 3,000 square feet for the Signature Series, 1,257 to 1,992 or above with add-ons in the cottage homes, and 1,220 to about 1,700 in the paired villas. Okay, plus add-on spaces in those prices. The walking paths, will they be open to the public yet? We are not anticipating, and we haven't built in any restrictions on the access. As a matter of fact, we've extended the paths in a couple locations so that they could eventually be tied in with other pathway systems as those are developed or added on to, and give the city opportunity to do that. So they would not be restricted in any way. Obviously, it would be, from a convenience, the homeowners association will be responsible for maintaining those. So if people from outside of the neighborhood in any way are abusing those paths or not being courteous to the people that live in the neighborhood in that way, I'm sure that we would have some conversation with the city as well as far as how to address that. But we are not anticipating restricting public access to them. I want to make sure I covered this from a not enforcement standpoint. We have far more arguments with our customers about who want to have us bend those rules, okay, than we do probably any other discussion on this. We make sure that that's in the contract. We present those requirements up front to people when they're buying. We have a matrix that's predetermined on every lot that's out there as to which homes will fit and which will not fit, and we keep track of what homes are built and permitted on each lot. And so from a standpoint of enforcement, obviously, that's, we were very careful with that. We make sure that we communicate that to people, because we don't want to be in a situation where someone after the fact comes back and said, well, you told us you were only going to do this. So I also would say at this opportunity, one of the things we tell every municipality, we are currently building in Portage right now in Deer Creek, okay, as our maiden voyage in the town. But when we come in to talk to a town where we've never built in before, or a city, one of the first things we say is, here's the other towns and cities that we're building in. Please reach out to your counterpart in those towns or cities and ask them what they think about Providence, okay? Do we do what we say we're going to do? Do we live up to our obligations, et cetera? And encourage that at any time, because you will hear very good reviews. So from a standpoint of who's this going to be building, we're going to be building the homes. We stand by our reputation. I encourage anybody at any level here, whether that's from the mayor on down, to reach out to their counterparts in the towns. And we've told everyone which towns and cities we're currently building in. Kathy Bingham from the church, I think the mayor said the tougher thing, but as far as expanding on the property that we're now developing, we are developing that. I don't know what other opportunities there are for expansion, so I'm not quite sure how to address her comment in any way other than the way that the mayor addressed it. Jeff?
He also asked about if they could tie in.
Oh, yeah, sewer and water, yes, that's correct. And I don't want to get too far out over my skis on this. Is the church currently in the city limits?
No.
No. Okay, so I don't know, I am not familiar with what the requirements would be for that, okay, from the city's point of view.
It's county.
Okay, it's county, okay. Okay. So Jeff addressed, that we promised the world. I mean, I guess, again, we've been very transparent on what we have, and we stand by our reputation. The reason why we're doing the preliminary plan in a very detailed document is it outlines what the requirements are going to be, okay? And that's what it's for. we want an understanding of what the requirements are. The city wants an understanding of what the requirements are. That's what the preliminary plan is for. That's what these documents are for, is to make sure. That's why we're presenting all this. So we certainly, there isn't just the ability to go out and do something different. That's why we're talking about it. That's why we're presenting this to you. But I wanted to address that comment. He asked the question about the slab foundations. I think I addressed that. The traditional single family, though, has a basement crawl combination in it as a standard, okay, with an expanded basement option if someone wants to put a basement under the entire home. So that's a little different from the other two. The rental question I've addressed that Jeff brought up. Tax payments, again, as I said, I know from a financial standpoint, the city's got some plans. I'm really not the one to talk about it, okay, but from a standpoint of dealing with infrastructure and finance, I know that the cities look very closely at this development and will look at future developments. Michael Gross, I think was the last name, also asked a question about rental units. I think I've answered that question. He's the one that I think commented about, will this change? There's been several iterations of this plan. I think I've addressed that. We'll reiterate that that's been largely in response to not necessarily you did it wrong, as the mayor indicated, but there's a back and forth conversation. It's a mosaic of give and take when you're going to do a development right. That's what we do, okay? And so I think working with the city, we've made those changes, and I think it's turned out terrific, and I think all those changes were worth making. Sales price was also asked by Mr. Gross. I think I've addressed that. The school system he raised as well. That was addressed very eloquently by the mayor. The question of the verbal agreement about property purchasing, okay, we have had this property under contract. We did have persons involved in our land department before. I'm not aware of any details, certainly verbal agreement on land sale. I'm president of the company, so any definitive agreement or going forward on that is something that I would be made aware of. I'm not saying he's not telling the truth, but I don't know at what level those conversations took place or didn't take place. I know that I've never been presented with any type of written offer. And again, at this point, I don't know there's anything I can do about it, but if in some way someone that used to work for us represented in some way something, I apologize. I don't know how else to respond to that. Al's wife, Nikina, is that right? Okay. Primarily seem to be revolving around livestock restrictions. I can't speak to that. Just to be clear, so I understand that if I can ask you, your property is across Airport Road, south of Lennar? North. Northwest of us, but on the other side of Airport Road? South of Lennar, okay, all right.
I can answer it.
Okay.
Whatever they're doing and whatever their covenants, whatever their HOA doesn't apply to you. Your only problem or restrictions are the city ordinance.
Okay. I'll leave recycling to you folks and the mayor and the council.
She was asking if we can start recycling again.
Oh, I mean, I can answer.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Do you want me to go back up? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'll say it to everybody just because it's a public meeting and there are people watching online, so I just don't want people to feel like stuff got answered separately. So the question was recycling. We have recycling in the city. Right now it's a drop-off system, so you can come to the street department to drop off your recycling. And the good thing about that is it actually gets recycled. When our recycling was put in suspension in 2021, I used to know the month and now I forget the month. Basically, the city was going around and they were picking up everything in the recycling, but it was all going to landfill. It's something that we're working on with the sanitation department, being able to go back to a pickup system again. But what we found and other cities found, and not to toot Portage's horn too much, but I'm the mayor, so I'm going to try, we set kind of a standard, because once we came out and said, hey, nothing is actually getting recycled that you're putting in your toter, other cities in Indiana and other places admitted that too. And so it was a pretty big deal that we weren't the only ones. We were just the first ones to come clean about it. But with the current system we have with the drop-off, you are able to come and get it delivered. Another thing I'm working on is I'd love to have some churches, and we got a church here so we can talk. It'd be a great volunteer outreach to help people who can't physically get to the recycling center that we've got or the drop-off that we have at the street department. So we encourage people to do that. But it is a plan we have, and I don't mean to call it too long-term, but if we go back to a pickup at your house, it's really not fair that we do that unless we actually have some way to ensure it's getting recycled reasonably. And that's just where we're not at yet, and I'm not sure if there's a community that knows the answer yet, but we're working on it.
Yes, if you go up to the podium.
On the question of the water and the sewer, you are saying that New Hope Church of God is not in the city limits. Based on that map that you've been showing, those houses are going to be right next door to us. So why is it that we would not have, why are we not considered in the city of Portage if those houses are going to be considered in the city of Portage? Because the way I understand it, according to the map, this all the way goes down from all the way down from Route 6 to 450 down to 700 North on 450 West.
I'd have to look at the annexation map, because this doesn't show what the annexation was.
Okay, because I say the church is right at the very end. If you want to pull up that map, the church is right at the very end of where their houses are.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg. Go ahead.
That's the church right there.
Okay.
The church is not in the city, it is in the county.
Yeah.
Okay, then what is the difference between where those houses are and where our church is at then?
The difference is those houses, the property was annexed a couple of months ago into the city of Portage.
So then what you're saying is that, because we received letters that would pertain to our church. This is why I'm here this evening, is to find out what effects this is going to have on our church.
You received a public notice because that could be, even if you're in the county, you'll still get that public notice.
Correct.
So in other words, you're saying that this gentleman's property is going to end at the beginning of the north side of our parking lot then?
Correct.
Thank you.
And you still own your property as it is?
Well, we were trying, because of the fact that they're going to be bringing in city water and city sewers. We are currently on septic and on well water, and we were wondering if we could, be able, because we were trying to get water at New Hope Church of God, and we were told that Indiana American would not be able to come to our area of the church because of the fact we weren't in any construction area. You guys are going to be doing construction area right outside of our church. This is why we were asking.
You may want to contact Indiana American and let them, when this is going to be under construction, maybe they can do that, because that's a separate entity from the city.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So now that there's construction there, they may be able to hook you up. So,
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
In that scenario, the water should be very close.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, I was just checking that before commenting on it. I mean, from a water standpoint, the water would be basically coming down to the corner of the church property as part of our installation. So that would be pretty darn close.
Sewer is a more complicated question because it's multi-jurisdictional, and so we're going to have to find out the answer. You're welcome.
The other thing that we'd like to make sure it makes it into the notes is that they were asking about a turn signal
Yeah, I got that. Was last
on
Mary
Route 6 and Airport.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, and just so that's a state
It's
function.
just, I understand that, but that it was brought up at this meeting.
And calling the state does not fall on deaf ears. The state moves based upon data, and that's what changes the lights, that's what adds turns lanes, that's what put things into intersection improvement plans and complaints. So
I can add too, and I don't know if this would be, I don't know what you've been on with this, Scott, who's been where, but as a city, we're working with a company on getting a Safe Streets for All grant, and what they're doing right now is they are assessing what they can put in for that grant is what are our most dangerous intersections. I can't tell you what the data is gonna say, but if I were making an educated guess, I can't imagine that that intersection isn't one of the most dangerous, in our city. So not to say that we should just cross our fingers and hope we get a grant, but know that we are actively working on different ways to improve traffic in the city. But as noted, we can get ahead on that when it comes to that intersection. We've been working on some things there, just,
It's election time, get home, Mosley and Ronnie Pope.
I thank you.
I think, Mary Chin, that was the last public comment. That
Pardon?
was the last public comment, right, that we were,
The only other comment, and Attorney McClure, if you could help me, the gentleman asked about the property that is on 6, on the south side of 6, and they were not given a favorable recommendation by the Planning Commission. Can you address that?
That case.
'Cause we have an all-new-
At the end of the day, that case had its own life, its own petition, its own hearings.
Different parcel.
It wasn't exactly the same parcel. It's not, I don't want it to be confused. We don't have the second rendition of the same. This is a different developer with a different plan. It doesn't contain the commercial on 6. And it's not all the same property cobbled together. This is another try at the same development area.
I thank you.
welcome.
I will now close the public hearing and open for questions from the commission. I do have to say, because I had a question about the main floor of the townhouse, I did go out. Did they tell you?
Yes, yes.
I did go out and see it. It's a beautiful product. So I was very, very impressed with that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate
And the
it.
other thing that came up in the DRC and in several other comments that really was not brought up tonight was that you have already reached out to Porter County to work with the stormwater.
Correct.
So we're not just on a wish and a beg, but you're working to do it correctly with the county.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I wanted to reiterate, because it came up a couple times, as far as the plan changing, and that was, they've been through DRC, they've been through staff meetings, they've been through you, so that, you are right, that was in response to our request, so, and they responded, especially with that cul-de-sac issue, so, anyway, I just wanted to reiterate that.
Thank you. Jumped through most of our hoops. Any other questions? Comments? May I have a motion?
All right, so we're going to do all three, right? So I make a motion to send a favorable recommendation to City Council to approve Z-0324, Z-04-24, PD-0124, contingent upon staff approval of items A through P, page 4 of 6.
It can't be subject to staff approval. It's part of what you outlined is what needs to be completed. I would just make it contingent upon eventual compliance with the staff report.
Okay, could you amend that? And Dina, you have that verbiage? We're recorded, so if you could just say you'll amend your...
I'll amend my motion.
As stated.
As stated.
You have that verbiage?
Yep,
Okay.
got the motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Cherry, could you call roll?
Carissa Childers,
Yes.
Sam LeBoy,
Yes.
Deb Ekdahl,
Yes.
Denise Little.
Yes.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, all, for your time. And thank you.
Pardon? Alonzo, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
We don't have a quorum. We need
You're
5.
behind this pole, so. Sorry, Alonzo.
To send it to city council. They still have to jump through many more hoops once all the engineering.
Completed.
That's
Okay, great.
That's all business for this
Any,
evening?
any other business to come before this commission? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion, may I have a second?
Second.
So moved.